What we're going to do today is graph quadratics in standard form. Standard form is our normal quadratic form, ax squared plus bx plus c. You may remember it from the quadratic formula. You're going to notice that a lot of these steps are similar to what we did yesterday. Our first step, positive a opens up, negative a opens down. This is the one that deviates from the other ones. Since it's not in vertex form, we don't have a nice vertex. What we have to do is we find the axis of symmetry using the formula x equals negative b over 2a. So we take whatever our b value is, and it's the opposite of it divided by 2 times our a value. Then what we're going to do in order to find our vertex is we're going to take our axis of symmetry, just like what we did before. We're going to plug it back into the original equation in order to find our y value. Then we're going to make a table just like what we did yesterday, and then we're going to plot the points and graph. So what we're going to do is we're going to graph using our 5 steps. So for the first part, we have to decide, does it open up or down? We're going to look at our x squared value, and that determines it. In this case, the a value is positive, so just like yesterday, it opens up. Then, in order to find the axis of symmetry, it's x equals negative b over 2a. So this is our b value. This is our a value. So we have negative 4 over 2 times 1. That would be negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. Now, in order to find the vertex, we're going to use the negative 2. And unfortunately, this is not our k value. That's our c value, if we look right up there. So we can't just drop down the 1, unfortunately. What we have to do is plug in the negative 2 into our equation. So we're going to take the negative 2, we're going to square it, plus 4 times negative 2 plus 1. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, and then we have plus 1. 4 minus 8 is negative 4, plus 1 is negative 3. Our fourth step is our table of values. Remember, we put the vertex in the middle, so negative 2, negative 3 goes in the middle. We pick 2 points that are less than, negative 3, negative 4, 2 points that are greater than, negative 1 and 0. So what we're going to do is pick 2 of the points. I always like to pick the points that look easier. If you remember from yesterday, those 2 are the same and these 2 are the same. So I'm going to start with my easiest one, which is 0. 0 is easy because if I plug in a 0 and a 0, all I'm left with is 1. So this is a 1 and this is a 1. Deciding between negative 3 and negative 1, I think negative 1 is easier. So I'm going to take the negative 1, I'm going to plug it in, negative 1 squared, plus 4 times negative 1 plus 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4, and then we have plus 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3, plus 1 is negative 2. So just like yesterday, what we're going to do is we are going to plot our points. We have negative 4 and 1. We have negative 3 and negative 2. We have negative 2 and negative 3. We have negative 1 and negative 2. And we have 0 and 1. What we're going to do is we're going to draw our line. And that right there is our graph. So looking at letter B. With letter B, we're going to do the same thing. Our first step is looking at our A value. We see that it's negative, so that means that it tells us it opens down. Then what we're going to do is our axis of symmetry. That's x equals negative b over 2a. Now, this is our A value. This is our C value. Notice that there's no B value. Since there's no B value, we know that it's 1. So it would be negative 0 over 2 times negative 1. But since 0 is on the top, it makes it really easy. It means that it's 0. I really like when it's 0 because when it's 0, it's even easier to plug in. because when we plug in a 0, anything squared or 0 squared is 0 plus 2 is 2. Now I'm going to come up with my table of values. I have 0, 2 is the middle. I pick 2 points that are less than, 2 points that are greater than. I'm going to plug in the 1, and I have 1 squared. 1 squared is 1, but because of the negative there, it stays as -1 plus 2, which is 1. Then I take the 2 and I plug it in. 2 squared is 4, but because of the negative, it's -4 plus 2, which is -2. I have -2, -2. I have -1 and 1. I have 0, 2. I have 1, 1. And I have 2, -2. And that right there is my graph. Now, letter C is fairly difficult. If we're looking at letter C, notice that we have an A value here. Our A value is positive, so that means that our first step, it opens up. Then what we have is the negative b over 2a. That would be -6 over 2 times 3. -6 would be a 6 over a 6, which is 1. So when we have our vertex, the 1, remember the axis of symmetry and the vertex are the same. We're going to take the 1 and we're going to plug it in for the x. And so 1 squared is 1, times 3 is 3. -6 times 1 is -6, minus 1. 3 minus 6 is -3, minus 1 is -4. We have the 1, -4. That right there is our vertex. I pick 2 points that are less than and 2 points that are greater than. Now, my favorite point is 0 because that is the easiest one to work with. So I'm going to start off with the 0. 0, 0, minus 1. So that, of course, is -1. And remember, because of symmetry, those two are always the same. And then I have a decision between -1 and 3. I'm going to choose the -1. So I'm going to go 3 and -1 squared minus 6 times -1 and then minus 1. -1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3. -6 times -1 is a positive 6 minus 1. 3 plus 6 is 9 minus 1 gives me an 8. Now these numbers are really far apart, so I'm not going to go by ones. What I'm going to do is go by twos. That way it fits. Because I'm going by twos, I'm going to make sure I have that written. 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm just going to have the y's go by twos because the x's, ones would be fine. So -1 and 8. I have 0 and -1. I have 1 and -4. I have 2 and -1. And I have 3 and 8.